Okay, good afternoon, how you doing? You've got through to the MSI Overclock Academy with Team Great Britain. I'm Hivizman, and today what we're going to be talking about is liquid nitrogen, how to use liquid nitrogen in a safe and sensible way when benching. And we've just recently come back from Cambridge, where MSI Overclock Academy kicked off the UK tour. We had a great time. We did a course there. And a lot of guys have been asking me for an online version. Well, here you go, guys. Right, first of all, something we've got to get straight right now. Okay? Liquid nitrogen is not a soft, cuddly toy. It is a substance that can really cause you some distress. Now, I've got a flask of liquid nitrogen right here, and can you guys see that? That's minus 188 degrees being measured on this thermometer at the moment. Okay, that is really cold. Okay, now I don't want to scare you off either, but it's not really the substance which is dangerous. It's the guys that are using the substance that get you confident, get you carried away, and they think they know it all. Well, none of us know it all. Okay? And every single time you bench with liquid nitrogen, you follow set procedures. You bench safe, you stay safe. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the standard operating procedures for safe handling of liquid nitrogen, to use its official term. Okay? Now, first up, you've got to be aware that there are risks. And those risks are burns, which seems a bit odd since we're dealing with something cold, but I'll explain it to you in a little while, and asphyxiation when working with liquid nitrogen. Okay. Do not attempt to handle liquid nitrogen before being trained by an experienced bencher or paying some serious attention to this webinar. Okay. Now, there are a couple of things that we do that keep us all safe. Okay, and like I said, one of them is actually completing one of these little courses or having benched with someone that is properly trained themselves so you can see what they do. Okay, and you also need to know what to do if stuff goes wrong. Okay, it's all very well to say, oh, it's never going to happen to me, but guys, come on, let's get real. We all make mistakes. We're human. Okay, so right. The most important thing, and we're going to start from the very first point, that's when you're filling up your big container, your douar. Okay, you must always have two people present, all right, when you're dealing with liquid nitrogen. All right, so when you go and fill up your container, let's say you've got a big pump, big tank of the stuff parked outside your house, and you're filling up your douar, make sure there's two of you there when you do it. The reason why is very simple. Okay, if something happens to one, the other can step in and help. Alright, when you're filling it up from an outside storage container, it's a good idea to wear protective clothing. Well, I'm not saying be silly in the whole like biohazard gear stuff. I'm just talking wear some gloves when you're holding on the hose that's filling your douar. Don't put your face over the container, stuff like that. Maybe protective glasses, you know. But big thing guys, no open shoes. Alright, no short pants. Come on, you know, let's just be sensible about the whole thing. Okay, now one of the big risks is asphyxiation. Okay, liquid nitrogen expands 700 times its volume if it boils off. So make sure you're filling your douar, filling your flask in a well ventilated area. Very, very important. Okay, so when, for example, when we were in Cambridge, we filled it up outside. There was plenty of ventilation. There was never a chance of anyone getting hurt or losing consciousness. Okay. Now, the other big thing, of course, is to use properly insulated containers when you are filling up. As you can see over here, let me put it onto the other camera for you guys so you can see properly. Right, what we got here is a very, very well insulated flask. All right. How do I know it's well insulated? Well, there's only condensation and ice formed at the top. The rest of the container is reasonably warm actually to the grasp. There's no condensation forming on it. It is holding its vacuum. Now, at the meet in Cambridge, the guys will tell you, we had a couple of flasks that did fail on us, mainly because they were dropped in packaging, in the shipping. Thank you very much, UPS, for that. Even this container has got some quite hectic structural damage at the bottom. I don't know if you can see the bends there, but I'm not a happy camper with regards to that. And what can you do? So, right, see how quickly the temperature changes. Right, I'm holding my fingers to the end of the thermocoupler. I'm now going to pop it straight in. Look how quickly it gets cold. Bang, right there and then. Okay, so don't take chances. Be sensible, be safe. When you're pouring the liquid nitrogen, okay, do it slowly, especially when you're pouring it from the container into your flask for the first time. Do it slowly, and the reason why is you don't want to have huge amounts of boil off because the container is going to be slightly warmer. Pour it slowly, let the container cool down, no splashing, no bubbles, no problems whatsoever. If you benching like we were on a first floor, it's very important that you don't take a container into a lift and travel up with the container. What you have to do by law is place the container in the lift, place signs all along the route. So if it's on the 3rd or 4th floor, you have to put a sign on the door of each and every one of the floors saying that there is a hazardous material being transported and the lift is not in use. Okay, then you guys walk up the stairs, the container comes up, you take it out of the lift when it's at the top. Right, that's pretty much that for filling up your douar. Okay, let's quickly get through to what to do when, if, okay, something goes wrong. All right. The kind of burn that you get with liquid nitrogen is a cryogenic burn. Okay? Think of frostbite. All right? But think of frostbite happening rather quickly if you stick your fingers into minus 196 degrees. That's what that is right now. Yeah, the thermometer is reading minus 188, but the thermometer isn't particularly well calibrated. If you have some splashed on your hand, it's not going to be the end of the world. All right? It will burn off before it even touches your skin. And I should do a demonstration showing that, where I pour about a litre of the stuff off my arms, and I show how, because of the difference, the extreme difference in temperature between the liquid nitrogen, which boils at minus 196, and the temperature of my skin, and that thin layer of air that separates my skin from the liquid nitrogen which is boiling off, that all helps. But it's not something you want to do on a regular basis, okay guys? But if you do get burnt, if you do get something wrong, here's what you do. Okay, so small burns to the fingers, right? Place it in a warm place. Stick it under your armpit. Yeah, just stick it under your armpit. Easy peasy. It's not going to do the armpit any harm. What you don't want to do, of course, is put boiling water on it. Okay, so you flush the area, the burnt bit of the finger or the hand, with some tepid water, about 20 degrees, 21 degrees. Don't use a forceful flow of water either, so you're not going to stick the tap on full ball. Just gently let the water flow over it, because if you do stick the tap on really hard and you really burnt yourself badly, you could basically pull bits of skin off. Okay, like I said, don't apply direct heat. So no, don't take out your heat gun and stick it on your hand. Bad, bad, bad. Okay, what you do is you move the person to a warm place, like I said, approximately 22 degrees Celsius, and you seek medical attention. Okay, if the burn is quite severe, call an ambulance. Basically, from any phone, you can dial the emergency number. You guys all know what the emergency number is. While you're waiting for medical attention and the ambulance, continue just to flush the affected area of the skin with the tepid water. Make the person comfortable. You loosen the clothing and remove any tight jewelry, stuff like that, and you keep the patient calm, warm, and at rest. Okay, definitely don't let them smoke or let them drink lots of hot beverages. Not a good idea. No, not a good idea either to give them a cool bevy just to keep them going. So, right, the next thing we can potentially have as a problem is asphyxia, and what it does is, if you had to knock over a whole big douar, you're basically going to force all the oxygen that is in the room out of the room, okay? Because what happens is, in sudden asphyxia, it's the inhalation of gas containing little or no oxygen, and unconsciousness is immediate, guys, and death can follow very, very quickly unless action is taken. So please, 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 if you're benching inside, as we all do, you bench with your windows open, or at least one window open, right? You don't bench in a small little shed that's absolutely airtight because it's cold outside and you've got the doors closed. No, that's just asking for trouble. You bench in well ventilated areas, okay? But like I said, that's sudden asphyxia. That's if you knock over a big container, all right? Gradual asphyxia is slightly more of a worry because this is something that can happen to benchers, okay? It's when you're benching in a room that is partially airtight and you're constantly pouring liquid nitrogen into your pot, into your CPU pot, your graphics pot, whatever. That stuff has to go somewhere. And that somewhere is into the environment, into the space where you are. So you might not notice it at first, but over time, after an hour, 2 hours worth of benching, the amount of actual usable oxygen in your space, if the ventilation is not good, might actually become critical and become a problem. All right? Here's what to do in the case of asphyxiation. All right? The problem is it's going to need an outside person to help you if you get into trouble. Because remember, asphyxiation means you are unconscious. Okay? What to do is make sure it's safe to enter. How you do that, okay, is open a door, open windows, or if it's really bad, wear respiratory kit. Where you're going to find it in emergency, I don't know. Okay? If the person's unconscious, you open the airways, you check for their breathing and pulse, and you call for help and get ready to resuscitate. Okay? Wherever you are in the world, each country's got their own emergency numbers. Just phone your emergency number. It's normally a 3-digit number, and they'll come to you. But it's very important, like I said, bench in well-ventilated areas, and, okay, if possible, bench with a buddy. Right, that's the end of the first module. The next module is going to be a look at how to prepare a motherboard, so stay tuned. See you next time.